Such a generous introduction, Michael. I'm really so grateful, and to Ron for putting this in motion, and everybody here. I know that it's still feels unusual, still feels exotic and delightful and strange to come together, at least in my experience, and to hear poetry in a warm and close space, and to hear each other breathe, and to kind of sense the room with our full sensorium. And so this is just incredible. Some of these poems that I am going to read are actually from an unpublished book manuscript that's in process. I gave birth 2 months ago, and so I was pregnant for much of last year, and that inspired a sort of diary that became a 40-part poem sequence that's still sort of in process, but that's where the skeleton of it came from. And I was really lucky. I chose to become pregnant and kept on choosing it, and I'm thrilled to be a mother now. But at the same time, it was a very odd year to be pregnant, especially given the forces of malevolence that are imperiling people's bodies in all kinds of ways in this country right now. And I think really at any point when pregnancy happened to me, I would have also been struck by just the way in which you suddenly feel like the whole world has an opinion about your body, about your future child's body, the way in which the sort of prying collective superego sort of like starts to sort of trickle in to the interstices of your life was really annoying and really strange. And so while there was a lot I was really joyful about, there was a lot that I was kind of ambivalent about. And so some of that more bitter and terrified undercurrent kind of comes up in this manuscript here and there. And so I'll just dive in. This one's called Still, and its subtitle is 8 Weeks. Tell me about the final day, my body, full as it'll go, without yet changing size or shape, denser than it ever packed itself, the last day of body before, will still not show, when mirror still won't mark how underflesh has no reserve, no extra give or compress left, the airless torso sedimented on a pelvic leaded glass. Tell me which will be the last time I look at me while old body's custardy silt still anchors to the bark of how I am. Say a month. Say tomorrow. Say not now. Was it just now? Won't I know until it happens and adrift? Won't I look on non-self me and algebraize its changes? Is fear of future mash note to the past? Oh, shameless how I loved old me, prancing, boozing, flinging my life into crosswalks like salt into boiling water, latching to friends like a pig-led brooch. I was a mean Sybil and a sleepy drunk, rocking on the sun-up subway, while the girl beside me on the bench curled her lashes with a metal teaspoon, honest to goodness, rinsed it with a little spit, ate with it a carton of yogurt on her way to whatever work requires both those sacraments. I, covered in eyes, as hide can be when polished by the mammoth chamois of light rain on a Friday night. How I envy now those rinses of the slipshod and august. Oh, old me, your morosity at noon, your blackened silver, filthy toenails, doctrines, surmises, hand between coat buttons like a general astride a chain of sparkling islands. Have I changed yet outwardly? And is outward only dingy wrapper on the real? Or does container flavor what it clasps, alter it, the applesauce smell of wrist under watch band, like peregrine becoming nearly pet inside its hood? Tell me it's the last day of before, and I'll go a-mousing, sink my beak beneath the fur of one last clappered heart. How I feel even now, the meat swell under my skin, warm the craw. Say it's good as here, this change in body's faithless shape. Say it's good. Say still. Say when. Thank you. This next one's called Against Maternity, 12 Weeks. Back in my body, I corset myself, like a catfish jingling in her keyhole. Up would be the way out, but I plank it off with brain. I will not float higher than reason salinated me. I weary of the call to be more magic than silt itself, than the egg and coffee mud clutches starring the Terrapin Road. I hold myself still below the water. Just the same, the tide unsews me. Just the same, the ripples, handspan south of ribs, outflank me, brim without me, find channels where there was no channel, pay the drawbridge out of stolen coin. Shovel out a delta so the sea confronts, unprivately, the last of me. I turn my head away and face my desk. Sticky squares of paper, pens studded with the lyrics of medications, a red bowl thicketed with popcorn, a stricken list by laminated subject. I have cut my hair above the ears. I will not be caught fluked, unhearing. The honey of the mother will not gorge my organs of sense. I grind my chin against the forward air. I am the startling cat, bunting her face along a forest of turned and tufted salon legs. Along my lip, a shoe, a lace. I claw, I core, I char. I uncradle and discredit the stubborn fruits strewn and faking sleep in the pillowed hay paths luring to the barn. I am the stark cadet, half crazy with scouting between bridleways and tracks. Every trap could be a house in which a needle's eye is living. Every room could be that stepping stile to heaven. So say the tickling hands, pointing like asparagus in the nitrous muck. The road out of my mind is paved with sugared clavicles. The maidens and the matrons, the matrons and the maidens. Were there only ever two troops, heydayed where the horizon stalls? Dread of mine, sweat in the forelocks roofing my undainty skull. You cork the whiny gases from 100 bodies sunk and settling. Woman bodies split like poppy heads between first person and the pulvering tribute. Split along the palate, where first they tasted the sailcloth weight of their own tongues unmooring. This next one is called Late October Stonington. 29 weeks. You try to unthink it, but the geraniums really are a hotter pink. Now rain smears their faces on the black granite wall, and they allow their own destruction. You suppose health and beauty bind their green juices together, pricking upwards like a cheerful skyscraper filled with offices. But the ardor of the wasted makes its own point. The lone hips of beach roses harden in the waxy fog. So many kinds of driveways here, crushed shells, pea gravel, asphalt, or just two slugs of sand with stamped grass between. They all have tango beauty, shaded, slow, and bent. Now force of use is leached away with zinced-up residents in Italy or Florida. You call your husband from vacation town. Today he is giving up drinking. He is rounding himself like a river stone to unprecedented polish. A whole city waggles behind him, coaly-eyed, grinds its heel where the ginkgo fruits imitate the awful certain gods used to like in flames. Who said decadence was a rich man's game, when so much that edges against ruin comes in the frank, affordable pigment of sugar maples and in-network pills? You hardly know what to call the pointing and subsiding seated within you. More gesture than person, scumbling and reverberate, it seems like certain romantic paintings to undo by a million strokes the ship it is about. Fetus, baby, both too solid for this smoke machine royal, the flavor of recall, though it hasn't happened yet. Memory clapped backwards on the mind like a weightless baseball cap. You sense the tiny darkness cast by its brim on the back of your neck. Then the night in its frozen geode begs a hammer to disclose its secret, glistening spires. At this point, it would be beautiful to fall apart unpedaled, to take a jug of wine to the marina, end in one of those birdhouses for jetsam books swapped outside the sailor church. What stops you? In loose garments, moving quickly, your legs part wide enough that each pace you smell your own changing flora. Part bread, part shoe, part cumin, now iodinated, just living a month on the sound. It's not something you chose to be the blotter marking the open case. But the toe-sized golden tomatoes are broke on dry vines beside the mailboxes, bent saurian beacons, and in them your marrow's tousled fiber goes recognized. This one, I'm so grateful that Ron chose for publication in a forthcoming issue of AQR, and I'm really lucky to join that illustrious pantheon again. It's an incredible, incredible journal. So get your hands on one of those copies if you haven't yet, because they will be going fast. This one is called The Double Life. And as Michael mentioned, I'm a doctor and a poet, and so it's a little bit about the pendular swing between those two very dichotomous parts of my existence. The double life. They were like the canvas and the paint of a grand portrait, the two necessities. The one, the day work in the hospital, stretched its linened fingers with geometric grace. Eyeless, it felt the nubs and crevices of sick wards, tensed them on a frame until they smoothed in readiness for oil. The other, the burden of poems, coursed in many colors, the brown and pink smokes of a face. It slaked the chapped canvas, which kept stretching, surviving, and carboned by its dim roots in plant life, its origin as part of nature, which wounds and heals and is heaping with victorious white scar that end to end would encircle every planet. More poems came, knife-thick, decked upon the work. For a while, the brushstrokes lapped placable in their pigments, slept almost against the linen sternum, made the unisoned life. The doctor spun pneumonias out of the body, poured elixirs, measured the liver in centimeters, belayed the pressure of the blood. The poet drank the blood. The dark paint lodged in the canvas's pale fibers. Hung the coupled gravity, the rowing brushwork, the bleached waddle of a canvas like a tide rim, like all ornaments, finally unendured. The paint split, wrong-sized in its varnished coat. Like a cigarette, just where it was brightest, it ashed off. It had to. Flaking, it was most itself, isolations of apricot, gamboge, topaz, scarlet, no longer part of any picture. Fugitive, it entered the room warm with bodies, the floor, the rug. Entered as dust the body's blood. Its leaden chaff stirred madness, wove itself in bone. High on the wall, denuded chinks of canvas glistened, newly undisguised in milky penance. The war of work, the taut battalion going onwards with its retinue, with its sick. Is this to be regretted, the unlastingness? Tell me, how else can union end between color and its harbor, between color and its canvas bondage? Aren't we tired of our pictures? The surface always peeling from its own radiance. And the canvas suffers too, suffers where its pallor has been dyed. Unfaced again, the canvas whitens into splendor. Bright flakes of poems litter the floor. Unflocked, they unhoard their unreality. Thank you.